Welcome to the SG Client Spotlight. I'm Aditi Roy, and we are really excited because today is our first video installment of the Client Spotlight. And we're thrilled to welcome Jennifer Nuckles of R-Zero. She is the CEO, and she just joined as CEO a few months ago. She came from SoFi and also worked at Doctor On Demand. She started off her career at Clorox. Jennifer, welcome to our program.
Hi, Aditi. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be in the first video installment.
Well, I want to dive in and start asking you to kind of set the stage a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up and a
Yeah.
little bit about your background.
So I'm a California native. I grew up in San Diego. I went to undergrad at University of California, Berkeley. So that was my first time up here in the Bay Area. And then I left Berkeley when I graduated, and I went and worked in New York for 5 years. And then I moved to Boston for 2 years to go to business school at Harvard Business School, at which point I really, really wanted to get back to California. So I've been back here for about 20 years.
And it sounds like at Harvard Business School, you kind of got bitten by that entrepreneurship bug.
So prior to business school, I worked in management consulting, and I really wanted to leave professional services and go into an operating role, which is the role I took full time graduating from HBS. I worked at Clorox for 10 years, but I also had won the HBS business plan contest, which gives you funding as an entrepreneur. I had 5 years to spend that money post graduation. So when I was working, I also started my own company.
And you were at Clorox for a long time as well.
Very
And
long
you
time.
did innovation within Clorox, right?
I did. Clorox owns a very high portfolio of brands, with it always in the number one or two position in the verticals. I worked on everything from Kingsford charcoal to Brita water filtration to Hidden Valley Ranch, Glad trash bags. Many products that people don't know that Clorox actually makes. Probably my proudest moment is that I launched Greenworks when I was at Clorox, which is a line of sustainable cleaners. It was the first new innovation for Clorox in 80 years. And so when I think about kind of the areas I'm passionate about, it's really health, disinfection, and the environment and sustainability. So it really married the two.
What do you do after Clorox?
I left Clorox to become the head of product and marketing at an e-commerce beauty startup that IPO'd. It had been backed by a number of pretty influential investors, including Kleiner Perkins. Kleiner had also backed me as my own company, so I had that relationship with them. Once the IPO happened, I actually needed to focus on my own business, which we had been doing in kind of the background. So I did that for a number of years until we had an exit.
And you've worked at some big brands, Zynga, SoFi. You took both of them through their public debuts. Let's talk a little bit about R-Zero. What led you to jump to that bucket in disinfection tech?
So I joined R-Zero in October as chairman and CEO. I had been on the board for 2.5 years at that point. So as the only independent board member, I was doing that as I was running a division of SoFi. So SoFi is divided into thirds. I had a third of it, and I was running our financial services business, about $1.5 billion P&L, 1,500 people. And I was on the board of R-Zero. And when I looked at what R-Zero is doing and the opportunity to really disrupt a kind of antiquated category that I have a ton of experience in, just based on my background, I was pretty excited about the opportunity, and I decided to leave SoFi.
And it sounds like because you were on the board for so long, you really were there from the beginning.
Yep, the company started just almost 3 years ago now. So I think the genesis of this was something that all of us have lived through in the past 3 years in terms of our shared humanity. For the first time in our lives, we're all going through the same thing, which is that people got sick, people weren't able to hang out in their social bubbles. Like, we all had this forced isolation, people were dying. And what I have the experience of coming from Clorox is I actually know how pathogens are spread pretty easily. It's predominantly through airflow. The second, surface disinfection is really when people get sick, in terms of like MRSA or staph infections or cold and flu. And so, knowing how the technology was being used to kind of displace some of these antiquated solutions like manual cleaning or hospital protocols became really, really important. We launched a flagship product just 3 years ago now, which is called ARC, which is a freestanding tower. That is the product that competes with some incumbents. In market that have been predominantly sold through hospitals for the past 15 years.
And tell us a little bit about, I mean, that I've seen photos and a video of that product, and it's really cool because first of all, the design is really sleek, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
traditional kind of air filter type stuff. I mean, and it seems to be fairly unobtrusive. So talk to us
Mm-hmm.
a little bit about the use cases for that, as well as some of your other products.
Yeah, so we have four products in our portfolio. So we have ARC, which I mentioned, which is the standalone tower. I'm actually not, ARC is great. It has a role in the portfolio. It's used predominantly in hospitals, as I mentioned. That's actually not what I'm most excited about. So we launched two products following, which are our installed products. They're always on products, if you will. So they're called Beam and Vive. And the difference between these products and ARC is predominantly used in hospitals, senior care centers, operating rooms to turn over a hospital room. And the always on devices are used every single minute, 24/7, in commercial real estate, in sporting facilities, in hospitality facilities, in the public sector. And they're actually disinfecting the air and the surfaces where we're all coming together to have protected spaces. And so what I'm most excited about is these are the first products of their type in market. And what we've seen over the past 3 years, and we're all living this, right, is that people are coming together less frequently. Now the world is coming back to its new norm. We're in this world of like hybrid workforce. Employers are doing all they can to get people back in the workforce because of the lost collaboration time. People are hungering to go back on travel, go back into hospitality. And so the importance of allowing people to gather safely, not just for COVID, but for cold and flu, for MRSA, for staph infections, for RSV, is becoming front and important. Everyone's realized like how we all were kind of sick before, and there's different
Mm-hmm.
ways of combating that don't have to rely on manual cleaning or harsh chemicals. The efficacy of ultraviolet light is unparalleled, and so the amount of disinfection in just a few minutes is 99.9%. That's one of the
Wow.
key pillars. Um, so it's good for all of us safety, but it's also good for the environment because we don't have the manual cleaning. Oh, one thing recently is in the commercial real estate area, companies are starting to run their HVAC systems a lot more, about 30% more, to improve air quality, airflow. But
Mm-hmm.
that's actually not what HVAC systems were built for. And they're turning off a tremendous amount of greenhouse gases.
Your company has been born out of the pandemic, but how do you make it relevant today and also poised for that growth?
Yeah, so I think the biggest inflection point is that people are aware of how sick everyone can get and how pathogens are spread. And so the amount of attention that you're seeing on indoor quality, air quality, has never been as high before. So the Biden administration has launched a significant amount of grant dollars. We have government contracts. They're mandating requirements for indoor air spaces, for shared spaces. And so because this is becoming so top of mind, people are much more aware. And so when I look at kind of the silver linings of COVID. COVID was terrible, and we're all in COVID. COVID's lasting forever. It's
Yeah.
an endemic. Um, the terrible things about COVID in terms of like the mortality rates and what we didn't know about how things were spreading early are prevalent. The positive things are people have had more time with their friends and family because they're at home in their houses. They're also realizing just that we shouldn't all walk around sick, and then there is more of importance to kind of balance in life and making sure you don't go into the office when you're not feeling well. I think the attention that's being put on indoor air quality and surface disinfection is as high as it was in hospitals in the prior years. And so thinking about all of us as parents, the absenteeism in schools and the amount of lost lecture time and training time that have happened for our young
Mm-hmm.
kids, was pretty disastrous during COVID. And so now knowing that we can bring kids back into a classroom safely, we can protect our frontline workers in the hospitals. The public sector is investing in indoor air quality in these shared spaces, correctional facilities, parks and recs, really to help people come back to the new normal.
And it seems that that need is being reflected in your growth. Now, if you look at your
Mm-hmm.
current client list, it's very impressive. You have
Mm-hmm.
Rivian, Salesforce, Uber. I mean, huge customers. Where do you go from here? Tell us a little bit about how you're growing.
Mm-hmm. So we cover hundreds of millions of square feet. We have 1,000 customers. We're protecting 400,000 people on a daily basis. We have insights through our software that feed to all of our customers so they can get the data as to how safe are their indoor air spaces, what are the high risk areas, what's their traffic been, what's their real estate look like, how often do they have to do disinfection. That's done through our sensor work. So we will be announcing soon some pretty large investments in the company. We have strategic investments, as I mentioned. We have a large number of strategic partners in the Fortune 10, as well as in the technology space. We also are focused on our hospital relationships, our education relationships, the commercial real estate footprint, as well as the public sector.
And I didn't even mention the sports teams, right? Which a lot of
Mm-hmm,
people get
mm-hmm.
excited by. You have the 49ers,
Mm-hmm.
Sixers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're protecting a lot of the areas for the players as well as the practice areas. A number of their galas. We were just at JP Morgan this week, protecting the healthcare conference in San Francisco. We protected the Stanford University Sustainability Conference last November down in Palo Alto. ESPN and Disney are a client. They use us at the U.S. Open. They're using us in all of their venues.
You mentioned some of the funding that might be coming up. What do you
Mm-hmm.
plan on doing with that money?
So the company has rolled out a number of product innovations very quickly. We have a portfolio of 4 products, including our sensors. We also have our software capabilities and our dashboards. We're launching another product this year. So it's really to put back investment into product development and the science. So when you look at new needs in the market, and that these market needs are moving daily, really based on like requirements that are being put out through the government. We're investing it back in R&D.
And all of that ends up just driving more towards
Mm-hmm.
creating a greater footprint in sustainability. Jennifer Nuckles, thank you so much for joining us and
Yeah,
giving
thanks
us
for
a little
having me.
glimpse of your world. Thanks.